This is the U.S. Constitution, Article 4. Section 1 talks about full faith and credit. Now, here's how this one works. Alright, now, let's say somebody in Illinois became a thief. And he was caught, and he was convicted and said, hey, they said, you're a thief now, you're going to jail. Okay, so the guy goes to jail, and somehow manages to escape and ends up running off to Indiana. Now, he can't stay over in Indiana and say, hey, I'm not going back to Illinois, and so therefore they can't take me back and put me back in jail. If Indiana catches him, they have to escort him back to Illinois. Okay. So, and that's the same way if somebody commits murder and say the penalty for murder is execution and he's supposed to be executed in Illinois. Well, he flies off to Indiana, he can't get away from being executed. Okay. They'll ship him right back to Illinois, he'll get executed. Now, I know that they don't have an execution law anymore in Illinois. They used to, obviously. But it was just for a hypothetical example. If the death penalty is reinstated in Illinois and some guy escapes from prison and goes to Indiana to try to escape justice, he can't. Indiana will ship his butt back to Illinois and he'll face his sentence anyway. Okay? And that's what's being talked about in sections 1 and 2. It goes on to say, no person held to service in labor in one state. Now, this is where we were talking about slaves a long time ago. Of course, this has nothing to do with what we do today. But back then, if you were a slave in one state and you escaped to another state, then they would ship your butt back to the state you were a slave in, and you'd become a slave once again. So you couldn't just go off to another state and say, you know. Whew. Okay. New states can be admitted to the Congress into the Union. Now, you can't form a state within a state. Let's say some communities in Illinois decided to come together and said, hey, we want to be a state of our own. What's going to happen is the Congress will say, I'm not recognizing you as a state because you're already within a state. Alright? So, back in the old days, let's say Montana hadn't been a state yet, okay? They could have formed the state of Montana because there was no state out there to begin with. But in Illinois, because Illinois was a state, they can't form a little state within that state. Doesn't work that way. And you can't take a portion of Indiana and a portion of Illinois and jam them together and make a state out of that. Unless, of course, Congress approves that, and usually they don't. So, there you go. Okay, Congress has the right to make rules concerning territories. So that's what Section 3 is all about. And the United States guarantees each state a republican form of government, and the United States will protect each and every state from being invaded by foreign invaders. Etc., etc. But that's basically Article 4 of the United States Constitution. Now you know what's going on. I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.